Welcome everyone to the session, our last digital analytics of the year. Thanks everyone joining from Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. We have a great lineup of speakers, and we want to give a big shout out to all our sponsors, Happy Marketeer, Decision Science, and eClub. For those who are new to this event, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And during the session, you can actually ask questions on the comment section on the YouTube on the right-hand side. So best question actually stand a chance to win a gift voucher. Before we start, just want to let you know that we are planning an in-person event for December, which will be adhering to Ministry of Health guidelines for those who are in Singapore. If you're interested to attend, stay tuned and join our meetup and LinkedIn for more information. So let's start with our first speaker. We have CP from Sparkline, who will be sharing with us how we can use data for storytelling. CP, feel free to present your screen now and give a quick introduction of yourself.
Give me a second. I think there is some issue. Give me a second. Okay, let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yes, can see your screen.
Okay, so sorry about the delay. Some technical difficulty as usual when we do virtual events. Anyway, hi everybody. My name is Chun Pong, or CP in short. I'm an analytics integration consultant from Sparkline, and basically my day-to-day job is really about doing all this tracking, digital tracking, and so on. And I think some of you were curious that why is an integration consultant talking about telling a data story today? That's because actually before that, before I joined Sparkline, I used to be a data analyst with UOB Singapore, as well as before that with PhD in media. So doing data storytelling, visualization, all these things is still pretty much in my blood. And I thought, through the years of doing all those things, I observed that a lot of time, many of us actually struggles to put together pointers or insights as we do presentation, even though that we have a lot of data with us, and we should be able to do it pretty easily. And fortunately for me, in the past years, I have very good mentors and colleagues who actually gave me a lot of pointers along the way. And I thought maybe this is a good opportunity for me to share this, what I've learned with you guys as well. So that's why I think today I'm going to talk a bit more about telling a data story. And obviously, when we talk about this, I don't think anybody expect me to teach you how to share a bad data story. Obviously, all of us want to have a good data story when we tell one. So in terms of data story, I think the first thing is that comes to mind is that, does simply colorful visuals, fancy charts and graphs and so on tells a good data story? Well, I think most of us will know that it's not always the case. Having fancy charts and all those things does not always tell a good data story. And a lot of us will struggle to actually pinpoint or summarize what actually makes a good data story. Well, data and the visualization actually definitely play a very important role in that, but there's something else that is missing and that's important. So in order for us to tell a good data story, we definitely need a very good narrative or context to what we are trying to tell or trying to present. Well, this sounds really straightforward and simple, but that is also where a lot of us actually struggle with whenever we are, expected to give a presentation or put together some data-driven story and so on. So what do I mean by these ingredients? How does they play a role in telling a good data story? So first up, I think all of us would know that accurate data is really the most important thing before you can do anything, because without accurate data, whatever you're going to say is not going to be true, and nobody is going to care about what you're going to say then. But then accurate data is very, very subjective, because what is accurate? To some people, this data set might be accurate, but to the way that you use it, it might not be accurate because there's something missing and so on. So I think the thing about this accurate data part of the equation is really about needing to know what is your context, what is the thing that you're trying to show, and making sure that the required data is there. And of course, they have to be accurate, complete, and so on. One very important point is also that in a lot of situations, you will end up having to put data from multiple places together in a single report and so on, which make this accurate data even more important, because you wouldn't want these two sets of data not to match up or not to be able to join together, because then you will not be able to actually show what you need to show. So before we go on to the other ingredients, I just want to talk briefly about the common problems that really affect the data quality or the accuracy of data. The first one, the most common one, the top left one, is basically inconsistent data. I think a lot of us have seen it many times. Like, for example, when you have, like in the example I have here, Singapore as a country can be recorded in multiple ways: Singapore, SIN, SGP, SG, or even in all caps and so on. So that is one of the very common ones that affects the ability for us to tell a good data story, because imagine that you are supposed to pivot this data based on the country. Basically, you will not have the things tabulated together the way you thought you will. So the second common problem that I experience a lot, or I see a lot of my peers have problem with, is basically missing join key, the one that I briefly mentioned about just now. So in the middle example, imagine the green table is actually your CRM system, for example, and the yellow color table is actually your loyalty system, for example. Then what you notice then is that the customer ID in these two tables actually doesn't looks anything similar, although supposedly the customer ID should be same or consistent across both systems. So without a proper join key, you're not able to connect these together. And in this example, imagine if I have to create a pivot table, for example, showing you the number of members who joined since 2019 or 2020 in Singapore. I cannot possibly put these together because I just can't stitch them together. So missing join key is one of the problem that I see a lot as well. The third one on the right, the orange table, invalid data. I think this is something that everybody also see a lot, as for example, the first row and the last row. The member sin date is 1900 and year 2030. Well, 1900 could be possible if your company have been around for hundreds of years, but I don't think anybody would have locked it into a membership system or loyalty system at that point. Year 2030, I think I don't have to say more. This is like 10 years down the road. Who is that person? I would love to meet him and ask him who have the COVID vaccine, and maybe the lottery number for tomorrow or something. I don't know. But anyway, the last common problem that we encounter a lot is really about missing data. Well, in the example here, you can see that there's customer ID, country, and city. So obviously Singapore is pretty small, and we usually don't fill city for our address and so on, which is fine if you want to plot a geographic map of customer distribution. I mean, everybody is in Singapore. But for bigger country like US, Malaysia, China, or Indonesia, if you do not have the city flag being captured, then you basically plot everybody in the middle of the country, and then you basically do not have the ability to tell any story about the geographic distribution of the people. Of course, having said that, even for Singapore, if you really want to look at the distribution of customers across Singapore, the town like Bishan, Ang Mo Kio, Orchard, all these things is important as well. But of course, this is just an example. So the point really is about not having the required granularity of data that you need to make to tell your story. So this four of them is four of the really common ones that I see a lot. which I thought that it's good to also, instead of just saying what it is, showing you guys some simple example. The second ingredient of telling a good data story is basically to ensure that you have easy to read visualization. Now, this sounds really, really simple. I mean, easy to read visualization. How difficult can it be? It's not as simple as just having a simple chart or easy to understand chart, but it's also about not cluttering your visual, not over showing too much data in a single chart and so on. And of course, making it simple and easy to read is one thing, but the most important of it is to make sure that these charts or visual actually helps to tell you some trend or pattern so that you can draw insight from it, and that's where really the gist of your story is going to be. For this one, I have one simple example. On the left, you see that there's this table or this chart where you see the price and the quantity of the stock holding of Apple, Orange, and Pear. Now, you look at this chart, you'll be like, okay, there's only $ on your x-axis, and what's the quantity got to do with $, right? So this is one of the example of people trying to put when you try to put the visual there, but not having gone through how the visual should help you to tell the story, and not always the chart is the best. The graphs or charts is the best tool or mediums to actually tell what you want to tell the customers. For example, if you look at the table on the right, basically having a simple table showing the product, the price, and quantity, it tells a better story. It tells the point better than it would be in a chart. So the idea here is really about, number one, you choose the right visual, which I think there's thousands of literature or documents or resources online that tells you, for certain type of data, what kind of visuals is better, and so on. But I think the things that a lot of people actually miss out somehow is really about not putting too much thing into it, and also making sure that when you show the data, you actually have what you want to show them in mind, so that your graph or your chart or even a table actually tells, communicate or convey that message clearly across. And the final ingredient is really the narrative and the context. And I think for the first two, in terms of data accuracy, in terms of easy to understand visual, is something that a lot of us have heard a lot of time and quite familiar with and so on, which that's also the reason why I really covered it quite briefly. What I really want to share a bit more today with all of you is really about the context and narrative part of things. So a lot of time when the data story is being planned for, people jump right into it without having a proper thought process on what they're going to show or what they're going to tell, which is the reason why a lot of us struggle to actually put together something that tells the story that we have in mind to our audience. In terms of this narrative, I think the first step before we even jump into doing the dashboard, building up the story, is really about to be able to set your narrative, set your context right. What I mean by that is basically, for example, if you're showing a dashboard or you're preparing a dashboard for your customer who are the e-commerce website, then obviously you need to understand what the customer actually expect this dashboard to show them. And very important is that you have to try not to, let your own stereotype or your own assumption take over that process, because a lot of time we think this is right, but actually it's not. So the narrative and the context have to be set from the perspective of whoever your audience is. If it's a customer, obviously you need to work with them to understand what they are objective or what they want to actually be able to extract or be able to benefit from the story or dashboard that you are doing. One example that I can give is basically, for example, if you're doing a media dashboard, you need to know whether your audience is actually interested in things like the cost, the ROI on that return of investment area of things in terms of $ value, or are they more focused on in terms of performance metrics like click-through rate, number of impressions, number of clicks, or is it a combination of both? Of course, think having said that as an example, a lot of you will be saying that, media dashboard, the audience basically want both. Yep, this is pretty much the case for a lot of scenario whereby there is actually contradicting or there's a lot of areas to cover. So when we set the narrative, we need to be very clear about, okay, there might be multiple KPIs or multiple objectives we want to achieve within this story. We need to then divide the story into logical steps. I would to me, this is like writing a storybook. Each of the KPIs, each of the measurement, each of the charts that you do is like a page or a few pages in your book. And when you group some of these logical ones together, like for example, you group impression, clicks, and CTR together, you are like forming a chapter. And once you form a chapter, you move on to the next chapter, you form a few more chapters, and all these chapters will end up combining into a single story for you. And you really need to resist the temptation of jump right in and start doing all sort of visualization, trying to come up with all sort of fanciful graphs and whatsoever to try to convey the messages that you think it makes sense, and just sit down and really go through what your audience actually want to know. Or in the case whereby you're building something that nobody asked, like you are building a new dashboard that there's no audience to actually bounce off the ideas with, you basically have to be very clear about what this, for example, dashboard is going to achieve, or what story is going to tell. You have to have that kind of direction, and then as you when you finalize this, or when you have a clear idea of what general direction, your overarching direction that your data story is going to be, you then need to look at how you're going to break down the different parts together to build up, to slowly form up to the overarching storyline that you have in mind. So it's a bit like writing some story, or for some of us who are not really a writer, it's like writing a composition when you were in school. But again, this is really about breaking it down to a logical steps and making sure that we are able to deliver the kind of insights or the kind of trend, easy to spot trends or patterns that the audience will need to see. So instead of me going on and on about it, I'm just going to show a very simple example here. Again, about the media example. As you can see here, I have plot. Obviously, this is some dummy data I created. The media performance of Facebook, Instagram, and Google search. Now, you'll notice that there's two bars and there's two lines that you can quickly see at the bottom. And this is something that this obviously will tell me that, okay, this is about media performance. But this is not a good enough narrative, or not detailed enough narrative, because then we need to know exactly, when we talk about media performance, what do we really want to show them. And in some sense, it's a bit overlapping to the earlier point about the visual, because you can't just put everything together in the same place and expect people to understand what you're trying to tell them. So in this example, I don't think anybody will be able to make sense of anything, because basically everything is lumped together. We can't really tell which is the one that, of course, we can tell that media spends, the blue color bars will most probably be the one that is being shown by the x-axis on the left. But what is the unit of measure for impression, clicks, and CTR? And for example, for impression being at above $12,000 mark in the chart, does it mean it's about 12,000 impressions, or does it mean something else? So all these things will actually kind of dilute your narrative and make it difficult for your audience to actually understand what you're trying to tell them with the visual. Just a simple reformatting of the same data that I showed earlier on. We're breaking into two different charts. Number one, the first chart on the left, focusing. Sorry, I think there's an error at the bottom that shows extra media spends. It shouldn't have, it was supposed to be gone. Anyway, so what the chart on the left actually will tell you is that in terms of impression and clicks, which is basically on the left hand x-axis, and then the CTR on the right, which gives the audience a bit a more clear objective of, okay, this chart is telling me about the performance of media, which is basically impression, clicks, and CTR. Again, sorry about the media spends. And then for media spend, which is on a totally different kind of measurement and it's a slightly different thing, we can put it into a separate chart so that, you know, we can tell this, tell them the message very clearly that, okay, this is a performance of the media. And then the next chart tell them very clearly, this is the spend that you have spent. And by having these two charts, then it can become the overarching story to tell them that, okay, you get this performance after you spend this amount of money. Of course, a lot of us actually very tempted to actually put everything into the one same chart, and then sometimes it's okay, sometimes it will get too cluttered, and then the message is lost. So the objective here, or the idea here, is really about being able to break them up to get to different parts to build up to the overarching objective of what you're trying to tell the audience. So I think the overall, really the ingredients is really these three: having the accurate data, the easy to read visual, as well as lastly the narrative and context. But one other things that I really also want to share is really about the simple steps that you can take as you go through your thinking thought process when building up the story. Is about, number one, knowing what your audience wants, organizing your thought, and creating all this information in the bite size. So going back to what I mentioned earlier on, I think for the first 2 points, pretty clear. And the last one for the bite size is basically when you have a lot of information that you want to share, putting it into, each piece of information as one single visual, and then putting all this visual side by side all together, and then leading on to the final thing that you want to tell your audience is what the bite size really want to highlight. So I think this is really about how a good data story kind of come together. Of course, I think for in the sense that there isn't a lot of example of how does a nice visual looks like and so on. But I think that's because this is not really what I want to share with you guys today, because I think those things we can find all online. But I think really it's about the thought process on how to formulate or structure your thoughts as part of the data story, and being able to crystallize and some of these things together so that it becomes bite-sized for your audience and so on. And I think that's the end of my presentation today. I hope you guys find it useful, and I'm so sorry about the technical error in the first place, in the start of it, and also some other typo here and there. Yep.
Thanks, CP, for sharing the session. I personally find it very interesting. So for those who are just tuned in, just want to remind you that best question actually stand a chance to win $50 gift voucher. So maybe just to get the ball rolling, I have a few questions, CP. I think there are many people out there who are very interested to actually start their journey in analytics. You have such a various experience across hospitality, across technology, and now in media advertising. What would be your advice to those who would like to actually go into digital analytics? Is there anything that you can share with them?
I think, in fact, this is something that I have heard quite a bit, even back in media agency days. I think one of the most important things that, not just in media, but even in other domain, is really about making the effort to understand what domain or all this information is about. Because I think, for example, in order for me to tell a good data story or to set the narrative right, I need to understand what the customer wants, right? Or what the client actually want to see. And without understanding them, obviously I can't do that, right? So a lot of time, especially when you are in a consultancy like Spotlight, we work with different clients, and you might not have experience and have been working in those industry. So it's very important for us to actually keep an open mind, go and actually read up, learn more, and then have chats with our peers or friends who are in those industries, understand them better. Because I think it's never easy. It's never going to be somebody giving you a manual to give you all the pointers and all the information about the industry. So it's really about keeping yourself learning about all these things all the time, and just not taking an easy way out, I would say, because I think for me personally, spending hours and hours reading up on this technology or this domain actually helps me build up my um, knowledge and actually help me to help the clients that I work with a lot. So yeah.
So what would be some of the biggest challenge that you face, serving clients from different industries? What is the number one data challenge at the moment?
I wouldn't say at the moment. I hope none of my clients looking, watching, but no, joke aside, I think the biggest challenge is always, I wouldn't say one biggest challenge, but I think there's two things that always I find challenging. Number one is that getting access to the data, because data is never going to be 100% ready and there for you, and you will have to go and work with the client, work with the team or whatever to get the appropriate data. That's one of the challenges. The other challenge I think is it's not really the fault of anyone, but I think if you don't ask the right question, you won't get the right answer. So a lot of times, because both sides is trying to figure out what each other wants, or so on. So you always cannot get the right answers, and you end up doing something that they say, oh, actually this is not what I want, after you have spent hours doing it. So I think being able to ask the right question, being active in asking questions. I mean, there's no stupid question. There's just lazy people not asking questions. So just keep asking questions and look around this kind of challenge whereby the things are not clear or defined properly. Yeah.
Thanks, CP. So we actually have one question from Thillai, who is going to do our demo later. So his question is, as an analyst, what is your favorite tool to present your data story? PowerPoint or Excel dashboard or something else?
Honestly speaking, I think PowerPoint is one of my best friends in a sense, because sometimes in the dashboard, if you need to change something, it might take ages to, at least some of this dashboard, you have to publish it, you have to go through a whole entire change control cycle to get something done. PowerPoint with Excel is basically, it's there with you, and then you can easily actually get some of these things sorted out on the fly as you are planning through your presentation and all these things. I think for me, I definitely prefer PowerPoint and Excel as tools to I go to, but of course, they also have their problem and so on. But I think in terms of really when you presenting to a client, when you're doing business presentation, PowerPoint Excel is still quite flexible in a sense. But of course, I'm not saying that use that flexibility to manipulate data to make something out of nothing, but it's really about the ability to change something just for the context that you are presenting on, or to make some quick changes.
Thanks, CP. So Thillai, because you are one of our speakers, so we will not be able to give you the gift voucher, but we'll give you a beer. So claim it from Jeremy. So thanks, CP, for the very insightful, presentation. So now we have our second speaker, Mervin from Medicine Technologies, who will be sharing how we can translate business objectives into actionable UX metrics. Mervin was a design tutor, programmer, art director, creative director, turned UX designer. Very interesting career path. After returning as a UX specialist from the Middle East, he's currently based in KL as the UX lead of Medicine Technology. So, Mervin?
Hi, very good evening, and thank you for the introduction. And also, very insightful session by CP just now. And of course, very glad to be invited to join this session by the team as well. And also, thank you for tuning in. Of course, today itself, where I work mostly more on the UX side of things, and look forward to kind of find ways that ways can share some experience that me or even my team kind of found when working together with be it like client from a startup to even corporations. Today itself, where before we kind of jump into the actual content that I look forward to share with you, and then a bit of introduction, perhaps, like what Shun mentioned just now, where the product design and also engineering company where we work on things such as from like website as well as like apps, services, security, and also run workshops to kind of figure out what are the best way to kind of to strategically kind of develop a product that makes sure that you actually be in the right direction to be kind of effective as well. With that, of course, today where we would like to kind of touch on a few topics where we hope to even say for example, where you're running a small business, be it selling some kind of products, right? Where you also have some challenge that maybe you turn to Google or some other places to ask about it, but probably not sure where to go to. And these are also some points that I'm going to touch on in terms of the challenges, the usual one, as well as what are the kind of benefits when we, as well as from like the engineering side as well as design side, right? When it kind of marries together with the business needs or goals, the kind of very much more tangible kind of benefit you be able to reap in the like short term, mid term, and even long term as well. Of course, a bit of tips in terms of what are the common approach that I usually take in terms of mapping what type of metrics would work best for different kind of channels. So one of the main challenge, there are three that I kind of sum it up, are usually in terms of the businesses, be it a small, medium, or even corporation itself, right, where they are facing the challenge of not validating assumptions early on and just like use a kind of one size fits all type of approach where to apply the same type of metrics to different kind of channels. Well, it may work, but of course it wouldn't be effective, where it leads us to the second point, which is which means when we try to apply the same kind of strategy or same kind of metrics to different kind of platform, be it from the website or to your app itself, right? That means it can get very hard to track because there's no focus on which one are doing well, which one needs a bit of improvement. And of course, with that in mind as well, right, it leads to the bigger challenge, which is there are metrics that are being run. For example, you may have a website, you may have an app that has analytics, have data, but it may not tie into what your business really need to kind of get your business to the next level. So that kind of would not be that beneficial in terms of, say, your business spending to have an app on a yearly basis to get updated, but you're not actually reaping the benefits. With this, also like to kind of do a bit of recap on when throughout the session itself, when I kind of touch on in terms of digital products or even like touch points or even channels. There are more, but these are the some that probably we're quite familiar with, the common ones, such as like businesses may have a website, mobile app, even occasionally sends out a newsletter, or even the channel that actually interacts with the customer directly through a live chat. And even as of now, with the social media channels are so widespread and also accessible to people, that can be considered as a channel where metrics, with the correct metrics, also can be quite important to take care of. And in terms of business, of course, where there are definitely different kind of things would be important to look into, where kind of tie it together, where we want to talk about keeping the metrics and also the business goal in sync. In this case, where there are probably three main ones. The first thing is, of course, if there are products or touch points or channels, you definitely hope to kind of drive revenue, which means money and sales for the company. And for cost, at the same time, also we hope to where with the how borderless reach of digital channels itself, where it allows businesses to reach to even more users, where from different countries. And of course, the third one would be things where, apart from increasing sales or even like reaching out to more customers, which would generate more income, there are ways where with the correct kind of metrics will help to drive down operational costs and even the happiness of the people working in the company or in the business. So all of these things, right, are interrelated, and of course, it may not be obvious at first, but later we'll go into it and see like when the correct type of approach are being used to being placed to track how your channel is doing, you kind of improve any of these type of goals. So with that, probably I jump into a bit of easy to remember approach I usually use in terms of approaching problems or challenges from businesses where they may have a website running or probably set up it on their own, but they're running into some issue where it's not converting well, or perhaps there are comments from customers, but they are not sure how to action on it. And of course, the rule of thumb usually I would recommend is probably like this. These are very distilled down type of approach. Look at the problem instead of directly jumping into a solution, where you want to kind of understand the context, as what earlier like CP mentioned is important, because you may providing the wrong solution if you don't understand the business context or goals they're trying to achieve. With that in mind, we go to the next step in defining what are the kind of proper solution that would be suitable for this client, for this business, and what kind of channel for it. With that, then we go into the also very important steps, which is an ongoing process, because we know that in this case, in this time of age itself, where things move very fast, there's feedback coming in from different kind of channels all the time, and you have to always be constantly on the lookout to be engaged with your customer and see like, oh yeah, perhaps these are things I need to kind of make small tweaks all along the way. With that, jump into the first step itself for the detail. So of course, these are like the some of the examples that I kind of made up, but at least it give us a bit of idea in terms of the usual scenario when you come across in terms of like how do you make sure that the metrics that you're going to use for a channel can be effective and kind of drive towards the business goal. Where if it goes back to the earlier 3 points that I shared, right? In terms of increasing revenue or income for the company, also increasing the reach for the company, where there's much more customers signing up, or even satisfaction for the customer or even the employee, it can work that way as well. And of course, you have the goal, the high level goal, and as well as the result, right? But the important part we're looking here today is the in-between solution, and how and what are the things that we should be strategically look into, instead of using the usual approach where it's a main trap, where we go into like a one size fits all type of approach. And of course, where it's how we can kind of avoid that, right, is look at it thoroughly. Like the first thing where of course in this case, for the first example, if the client looking to increase revenue for a channel, for his or her e-commerce site, right? There are of course a lot of metrics out there has been flying around, where even someone that's seasoned, a veteran in the data space itself, someone is very new, they can also get very lost, because when it can be very easy to just like pick all of these metrics, such as like page view, unique user, average basket size, conversion rate. But of course, for some of us, we know that there are certain things that are really, really, really important that will help to kind of drive the goals that is set closer for the business. In this case, right, if at a glance we look at it, all of these kind of metrics may make sense, are usually used for a website or e-commerce. But when we kind of define and look at the correct context itself, right, what's really kind of important to have the business to drive the result are probably just two. In this case, where you help to even solve the second problem we're looking at, where there's no focus. With this, right, we help even the channel as this, where it can be very big or very small, to slowly increase, for example, average checkout for the value for the site itself, from, for example, like $20 to $25. That's a small or even big win for a company. Second example, look at if there's in a scenario where a business would like to kind of increase the reach of its customer base, where they are in the phase of growth, where they're not sure maybe by the end of the next 3 months, they want to increase another 1,000 users. Of course, there are a lot of ways, but we're talking specifically in terms of tracking the metrics to see whether are they doing well or not. And sometimes all these metrics may not be that straightforward. In this case, where we look at, there are like 6 metrics, right? It does seems at one go, all of it makes sense to be like for the team to track. But on a closer look, right, the one that really matters are perhaps only 3. And you may wonder, for example, like from time to complete tasks, bounce rate, and conversion rate. Bounce rate and conversion rate is something probably you may come across, may kind of help you to kind of understand, oh, if I have a sign up page where the people are not kind of doing a lot of actions and just drop off from the page or close the window, right? It can translate to the kind of number you can do to optimize, be it from content or the UI. But things that where I shared earlier in terms of that is not so obvious, such as time to complete tasks, right? It's one of the more common but important UX metrics. We look at how long where the user may take if they do convert and kind of complete the sign up form or even kind of complete the registration page and fill in all the details, because there are a lot of things factored here where you can dive deep into it later, where you ask a lot of questions such as, is it because there are too much field? Can we reduce the amounts of field we want to collect upfront? Or even such as if the page takes too long to load for people on the phone on like 3G or 4G. These are kind of things that is not always seem to be very obvious at one go, where it may take a bit of like trial and error for you to get to where it is, but at least you can see in this case here, right, we're taking the same approach, a more focused approach in terms of adopting the more important or strategic metrics that can help to drive more signups in this case. Third example, we're looking at what if there's a scenario where a customer would like to they have a business where they are doing pretty well in terms of revenue, but of course there are one side of it where they have customer logging in to maintain their account. It could be from examples such as like from banking apps to even like telecommunication apps, or even such as those where they have a video streaming service, right? And in this case, there are times where it's not incredibly obvious upfront on what makes the customer to gives a certain feedback or even ratings to an app. But of course, in this case, like even though it's still down to say the stakeholder wanted to kind of reach a certain stars or rating by the end of certain time, right? Of course, we can look at, instead of all or different kind of metrics out there for mobile app itself, right? Perhaps if it's focused, we can look at even things as simple as things would drive people crazy, where it's not even so like immediately obvious to developer or design team that is making a lot of people frustrated and rate it less than like 4-star. Sometimes it could be even just that the file size of the app, when there's a lot of features are being added into it, and even though it may not kind of reflect directly on immediately on what the business would kind of say that like this app, it has a small file size and whatnot, right? But if the customer is usually on the move where they download the app, it may affect the experience, maybe due to like the connection that is not very consistent, or even there are times where the download get cuts off. All these kind of things kind of lead to dissatisfactions where you can fix immediately, and also getting the right access to the data, even if you're not the developer itself, right? As someone from the design team itself, getting an access, like asking the dev team or engineering team to say, hey, can I access the dashboard and see what if you're tracking like file size as one of metric? Oh, it has grown probably like 20 to 30% over the last three months. And these are like the small little things you can kind of tweak. Of course, the first metric we look at, the time to complete task, is not always kind of relate to how many pages or sections that a form or a step that the customer will need to go through. That kind of takes up a lot of time for a user, but it could be sometimes also where there are a lot of kind of services in the background that runs where you may not know, where you also need to speak to the team to see like, oh yeah, when we test it on someone that is on the train, it may not actually react as fast compared to your competitors kind of app. So with this, right, it's kind of a very quick overview in terms of how we can kind of look into a quick win, be it like from someone that has a two-man team or one-man team to someone running a business that has like thousands or even like 100,000 customers, right? But all these little kind of steps could help you to kind of understand what is the main problem that is causing you not reaching your goal, and as well as like what are the things you can do instead of like trying to conquer everything at the same time. It can be very hard to be more focused. So with that, on the last step, we're just trying to reiterate the three-step process itself, right? Is of course an ongoing process where as long as you kind of intend to improve the customer experience, the user experience for your channel itself, it's always very important to look at feedback from all point of view, be it like someone that is not even for example cross-referencing on comments from someone that is actually using your channel from home, at work, while they are say like taking a transport and so on. All these kind of little things can help to kind of drive more insights for you to better understand the context of how to improve your product. Of course, the last one, as well as like the part of process is apart from always restrict yourself to the data that you have from analytics, right, where probably only the engineering or the dev team has it. It's good to kind of make it more accessible where anyone from the design team or sales team or customer service team, right, when they have that kind of insight as well to look at what you're tracking, everyone would be on the same page on say, oh yeah, all the customers pointing to the same problem. We should kind of go and look at it, focus on it and fix it. And of course, towards the kind of end of the session here, probably just trying to recap the 3 points, key learnings that we'd like to share again in terms of what makes the UX metrics, right, can be effective if you're able to kind of tie it strongly or closely with the business goal that you're trying to achieve, and avoiding the usual trap of like implement like the same kind of metrics across all of it. So in this case, of course, with the right context, you're able to kind of drive a better understanding on like even some stakeholders or CEO that is not technically savvy or probably may not have much exposure to the best practices from design itself, right? They understand, oh, this is good thing that helps me and also my business to do better. The second thing, of course, where with the correct context, it also help the metrics that is being defined are much more focused. You're really just spending the essential time into doing small tweaks, quick fixes on the channel that actually see improvement immediately. And the third one, of course, where is always a constant kind of progressive approach to see how you can kind of adapt, because you may not know like a month or two later where there's always a new exciting kind of channel that being introduced where you kind of need to adapt and again and see what are the things your business or even your channel need to do for that new kind of platform, right? So that your customer you're able to kind of be more satisfied in using a product, as well as like your business to kind of reap the benefit from it as well. With this, of course, really hope that you enjoy the session so far in terms of sharing, and of course, look forward to also connect with you. And if there's any questions, do drop in, and as well as very, very, very glad to be part of this session, and thanks for tuning in again.
Thanks, Mervin, for the good session itself. I don't think there's any questions on the YouTube chat itself, but I do have some of my own, right? So you were mentioning about the business goals and the list of the UI, the UX matrix itself, right? So do you keep the list of metrics steady while measuring the business goal, or this list of metrics may increase or decrease depending on need?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question because like some of the pointers that I kind of touch on, right, is a very dynamic nature where we may not really know like what other new type of devices may get introduced or platform, right? And there could be a new form of engagement metrics that's not being used before, say in the last 1 or 2 years, it get introduced again. So it's where the probably the essence of this, right, is actually interaction between you have to be always be kind of proactive in terms of understanding from say from business person trying to talk to the design team or the design team trying to talk to the sales team or vice versa. With all this kind of removing the silo type of mindset and concept, right, you're able to find that, oh yeah, these are probably the metrics would be best for this channel and this business in this case.
Okay, so I mean, for different business goals, so you can have actually a different list of UX metrics itself.
Yes, because of course, like we would like to have like the how to say the convenience of like applying the same metrics across, but it wouldn't be effective. It's easy.
Okay.
So it's always on the scale between like convenience and also effectiveness. In this case, where if especially the more effective metrics are being used, right, even for small businesses, it means a lot to them. So in this case, where I would say where you may have a list, but of course you have to kind of somehow customize and see at a different kind of time, different kind of context, you use different metrics.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks, Mervin, for your great presentation. Next, we have a text showcase demos and tricks using Adobe Analytics for effective analysis by Thillai. So can Thillai turn on your camera and also share your screen?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. You are the co-host already. So
okay, try sharing it once more.
You have the sharing option, right? Okay, yeah. It's coming. Yep. Yeah, it's on. Great.
Okay. Thanks, Zach. So hi, everyone. I'm Thillai. I'm a business consultant. I work with Adobe. And I'm here because I respect this community a lot. And I thought I can add a little bit of value. And here is why. I'm going to share some things around Adobe Analytics. Basically, I have come across certain things where people feel that, okay, hey, I'm not able to democratize my data. Or sometimes it so happens that I don't know if certain features are existing in Adobe Analytics. So I'm trying to take a stab at two things. How can you democratize data? And what are certain capabilities that are within Adobe Analytics that are not very frequently used? So with that objective, I'm going to start sharing my screen of Adobe Workspace. Right. Now, let me actually get into the workspace. I'm going to create a new project, right? Click on a new project, and basically it's going to open a blank space where you can actually move in all your data points and then make it available for others to view. But before we do that, these are the categories, or what we call the dimensions. These are your numbers or numerics, which we call the metrics. And then there are segments. Now, to begin with, let's start with the basics. I'm going to actually take a look at iOS and Android and then compare let me actually add iOS and Android. And then, as what Mervin was saying, let's look at something that is relevant to the business, which is going to be online orders. Now, it is going to be as simple as this to create a table. But then you see here, there are so many dimensions that when you share this project, it could make it quickly overwhelming for your business users to look at the table alone. If they want to actually play around with certain things, then they would be quickly overwhelmed, because if you look at the number of dimensions that are present in Adobe Analytics, is simply too much, right? Then what do? Before you share the project, you may have to curate the data, which means that you choose to say which are the ones that you are going to allow your business users to play around with. I'm going to allow my business users to play around with marketing channel as a category, and maybe a page as another dimension. And then when it comes to online orders, yeah, whatever you have already included, which is online orders is one of the metric, right? It's already included. But then I'm going to give some more options for my business team, maybe page views, and let's say form starts, right? And then even when it comes to segments, I can add what other segments that I can give access to them, right? And I can quickly click on done. And now you see here, what you see here is only those metrics and dimensions that you have curated and segments that you have curated. All the other things vanishes. So this is one way where you can put your business team at ease and not quickly overwhelm them with a lot of stuff. Now, if you want to remove curation, it's quite easy. Again, just go ahead and then remove your curation. This is point number one. The second one is the business teams may feel, hey, why do I have to continuously drag and drop? I'm so much used to using certain other visualization software where I don't have to drag and drop. Yes, I mean, because this is one tool that is applicable for business users, analysts, and a lot more kind of audiences, right? In order to make things simple, what you can still do is there is something called a panel. Now, within the panel, there is something called Quick Insights. These were added recently. Within Quick Insights, you do see all those drop downs that your teams maybe already be used to, right? Within that, if you see, there is something called Analyze. Now, I am going to analyze, let's say, I'm going to search for operating system. Yeah, operating systems. And I'm going to look at online orders. And okay, for now, I will not use any filters, or I can even choose to use some filters, but I'll not use it right now. And then I can quickly check for last 90 days data or whatever. Now what happens here is, you see, for operating system, your business team don't have to drag and drop anything from here. They are just going to do some clicks on the drop downs, and then you see the analysis that is already available here, and the bars and other things, right? Now, the another important point here is, because these are ad hoc analysis, you don't have to add a lot of context like the way that CPU was explaining earlier. But if you are going to share something, then definitely you need to add more context and other things. Now, how do we add context? Let's look at that next, right? Again, I'm going to get into panels. I'm going to show you another concept of segment comparison. I'm going to use the same segment that we chose earlier, which is I'm going to compare Android and iOS. So this is a powerful feature that Adobe Analytics carries, where it's going to compare two different segments and then give you some significant differences and commonalities that exist within these two segments. Now, it's going to take some time to process this, but it's pretty quick. Now, as an analyst, you don't have to actually go ahead, create two segments, write some SQL queries and stuff like that. Adobe Analytics can do that for you to some extent, right? Now, okay. This has finalized the analysis. Now let's look at this. Obviously, we are not expecting any the overlaps between these two, because these are two different operating systems. But then, as an analyst, I am interested in knowing certain key metrics that are important for my business. Now, one such metric can be page views, which is going to be a customer experience related stuff. Okay, how much is my content getting consumed in Android and in iOS? You see, this is page views by divided by the number of visitors. This is 8.43 and this is 8.69. Now, you also see something called a difference score. This is 0.51. What does it actually tell you is how significantly different are these two metrics that you are seeing there. Now, Adobe Analytics calculates this kind of a difference using statistical method called Manu-Whitney test and other things. So it's all there in the documentation. But the key takeaway here is you can quickly compare these two segments and then find out how different they are. But then before you share it, there are too many things here. So what do you suggest we do, right? I mean, you can quickly remove all the matrices because it's all done by the solution. The tool itself is trying to retain all the metrics that are significantly different for these two segments. So you can simply remove quite a few of them and then choose to retain only those metrics that makes sense for you, because that is where analyst role comes in, right? So let's say I'm going to choose only page views to be showcased, and the rest I can simply click on cross and then remove it. But then before you share it, another widely underutilized stuff here is in the visualization, you need to add context to any of the dashboards that you're sharing. Now, if you're going to add, let's say, I want to add some context to what I'm doing here, right? I'm going to add some context that says that, okay, I can add a text box here to any of the visualizations that I'm creating. And then I'm going to add context. Now, what is the context? Why did I even do this? As an analyst, I wanted to find out differences between these two operating systems because somebody mentioned that our iOS apps are not performing up to the mark. In order to do that, I'm comparing it with my Android app. So then I have to give that context. And then I can actually give my observation. And then I can actually give my recommendations. When we give recommendations, like the way CP was mentioning, you have to be providing with, okay, what are the steps that are needed? And if you do not do that, what's going to be the impact? Now, the moment you add context, observation, and recommendations across using a text box in your dashboard, the dashboard is going to have some amount of business sense to it. It's just not all numbers. So it's going to have some white space. It's going to look better consumable. So this is a text box is something that I have not seen a lot of people use it as a part of their dashboard. And now the next one, okay, we have seen curating, we have seen basic table building, segment comparisons, text. Now let me also come into the attribution part, which is the next commonly not so widely used feature, right? I would say it's not at all getting used in a lot of places. Now I'm going to go back to the panels. So these panels, I think you see here, there is something called panel. There are quite a few things here. I use segment comparison, I use quick insights. Now I'm going to use attribution panel. I have added attribution panel over here. And the context for doing attribution is fine. I want to understand which marketing channel is driving more conversions for me and where should I be investing my more money. And also commonly, if you see, there are questions in different organizations that where people are like, okay, hey, I'm investing heavily on particular channel, but my channel is not taking or not given enough credit because it's just last touch only attribution around. Because everybody uses last touch and my channel is not the last channel. But how do I prove that my channel is actually contributing to the conversion? Because I know that people are interacting with my channel. So this is the context. Now with this particular context, I am going to include the metric that I am interested in, which is online orders. Okay. Now I'm going to add a dimension, which is going to be marketing channels. Okay. Then as a part of Adobe Analytics, there are about 9 or 10 different attribution models that you can compare side by side. It is just not last touch anymore. There are multiple attribution channels that you can compare. Now let me actually use U-shaped as well. And I'm going to just do away with linear. I'm going to use just 3 for easiness sake, right? Okay. Now this is good, but then you forgot something to add. So you can still edit it, and then you can go back and add a look back window. Look back window is something commonly used in the media space, right? So this is to determine what should be the number of days for which I should be actually attributing the credits and stuff like that. So if something happened, like for during the last 30 days, should I attribute credit or should I go any longer? It's going to depend on your business need or the product that you're dealing with. Even in a bank, if you're dealing with certain products, is going to be longer, certain products is going to be shorter, etc. Now let me choose 60 days just as an example, and I'm going to click on build again. So this time is going to my attribution panel is going to get built again, right? You see here, first touch and last touch and U-shape. Now there are multiple reasons for using different kind of attribution models. Now it is nothing like this is right or that is correct, right? It all depends on your business context. As a performance marketer, if you actually want to choose, hey, which model, I mean, how is my channel performing against different models? Now, you see first touch and last touch people are all familiar with, but then there is something called U-shaped. U-shaped is a model that gives like about 40% of the credit to the first touch, 40% to the last touch, and the remaining 20% it distributes to other channels that becomes a touch point before the conversion happens and from the beginning, right? Now, if you see, I can clearly see that display is not performing bad. I mean, it is actually performing quite well. And if you also see a direct channel, the direct channel has never been a last touch channel. Direct channel has been a first touch channel. And then if you look at U-shaped, it is like the tool itself has given the distributed the weightage. And then it says, okay, hey, direct channel is not as bad as it seems to be when you're using last touch alone. So if you're using a U-shaped thing, it is still okay. Now there are different contexts to use these. Now let me actually find out, I mean, maybe let me put together a question for the audience here, right? If you are actually running I mean, let's say you're working for a bank, and then the bank has decided that the life cycle or the purchase cycle for a home loan is about 90 days. Then what is the tweak that we need to do as a part of this particular marketing channel attribution that we have built? So there are a few configurations, right? So a bank is saying, okay, hey, can you tell me, I am doing some analysis for my home loan orders, and the purchase cycle for a home loan is about 90 days. That's from my experience. Can you tell me where should I be investing my dollars? On which channel? So that's a question for the group. So if you have answers, please put it on your YouTube chat and we will take a look at it. I can repeat the question once more. Bank is asking you for attribution related analysis, and they are saying that, okay, hey, my home loan purchase life cycle is 90 days. Can you give me can you tell me where I should be investing my money based on the historical data, right? Now, these are some things that you can modify, and I would like to understand what are the parameters that you will tweak on this particular panel. Okay, I'm quickly going to look at any answers. Okay, that's fine. Okay, if I was an analyst, I would be tweaking the look back window, and I will make sure that the business cycle or the business purchase cycle aligns with the look back window that I'm going to build. And then I'm going to still build not only the models just for U-shape and last touch. I would think about, okay, hey, this is a long drawn thing. So which means there are going to be multiple touch points. So there's no way that I can just use last touch and first touch. Maybe a U-shape thing is good, but I would also say, what if there are too many channels in between and my team wants to look at all the credit that goes into all the models? So then I'm going to add linear as well, because we have decided, before I present my story, I have to give the context. And then I'm going to present a story saying, hey, there are too many channels that is getting touched upon. And I believe that as a customer of a low home loan, I'm going to invest. I'm going to take everything seriously and then look at it. So every channel deserves a credit. Now, if that is the business mindset, then I'm going to present a story with this linear, also with this U shape. And then I'm going to do something traditional so that when I prepare a story, I can say, okay, don't go by this, but I would recommend go by linear and U shape. But what do you guys think? So that is the context that I would bring and convey that story to my business. So these are few features that I believe that it can still be utilized in a lot of customers' scenarios. So feel free to use it. And then before I finish, I also wanted to tell you that because we are lacking time now, I could touch upon only a few of these items and I couldn't get into the details. But tomorrow, there's going to be an open class for Adobe Analytics that's being done by Adobe. And it's on event. So you can just go on to, you can search on LinkedIn for this particular open class for Adobe Analytics, and you can register yourself. And that's going to be pretty long. So yeah, that's about it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I'm open for questions.
Thanks, Thillai, for the very organized demo of Adobe Analytics. There's one short question about the answers by one of the audience was saying that set the attribution window to 90 days. But I think you are looking for a more detailed answer, right?
No, I think I was just looking for 90 days and that's good actually.
Okay, that's good. So he answered your questions. Okay, so before your session itself, there was actually one more question that is being asked for Mervin itself. So maybe Mervin can jump back in and answer this question about how do you think the deprecation of cookies and tracking effect measurement of the business data and the ways you attribute.
Yeah, I do think this is a very good question because with the sort of like greater awareness to in terms of people do know the importance of privacy and actually more such as being more upfront in terms of the approach of different kind of businesses trying to do with their data, and as well as there's a lot of backlash for not being transparent. So in this case, right, I strongly believe it's a very exciting phase at the moment because right now businesses would be accountable and actually would need to be more mindful in terms of the data they collect and the kind of data they use, how they use it, and what are they going to do with the data. So it's more about changing the approach to be more sort of like in a way to be mindful as well as be more transparent, because it can help to also kind of drive a more kind of aligned kind of mindset among not only the data team, but even people that is not part of analyzing the data, right? Even the design team, sales team, business team, they know, oh yeah, this is a type of information we collect to improve the experience for the business. So there's a lot of like conversation around like, but as long as it's kind of phase where we move into being more accountable and also more mindful in terms of tracking, because there are of course other things like metrics we use to kind of improve the experience, right? May not directly be implemented into the product itself. Sometimes you just kind of look at like how if something is loading or it takes a lot of time to kind of complete, right? And where you just been kind of tracking it in a way where you try to understand from the customer through interview. So those are kind of different ways. But again, yes, it's a different kind of approach.
Okay. Thanks a lot. So thanks for answering that question. We have one question from the audience for Thillai itself. So the question is, what is the attribution model you recommend to capture effectiveness of all digital channels? I think this is a very big question.
Yeah.
Any particular attribution model?
Yeah, I would actually say instead of recommending to capture effectiveness of all channels, it has to be with the business context. if the business, if in the line of business that you are in, if that is going to be a very short purchase, something like, okay, quick purchase, something like on online order for a t-shirt or something, then it's going to be instant purchase, and then I would recommend last touch in that kind of a scenario. But if it is going to be a credit card, then I'm going to actually use about 30 days, because I'm going to still research for different channels, and I'm going to take a while before I actually purchase a credit card. So then in that case, I would actually recommend maybe you have to look at a look back window, and then do a first touch and last touch along with the U-shaped or something like that. But if it is like a home loan product, then I would recommend something like a linear, or something else like a custom weighted model, right? There's something called custom weightage. You can actually give custom weightage. I think to answer your question more specifically, it can be, if maybe you are actually hinting towards that, right? You can actually assign weightage to, okay, 20% weightage for this, 30% weightage for these channels. So you can actually add up all the weightages to different channels that you have, and Adobe Analytics will normalize it to 100, and then it will assign appropriate weightage that you have in mind. So it all depends on what story that you want to say to your business and the context of the product that you're using.
Okay. Thanks for the answers. Yeah, so we are coming to the end of the whole session itself. Thanks a lot to really all our speakers, CP, Mervin, and Thillai itself, for all your demonstration, presentation, and also the question itself. So in December itself, we are planning for some in-person meeting, but definitely we are going to observe the MOH guidelines when it comes to that time. We'll give you more details in our regular channels. Do join us and follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Meetup itself, so that you can be up to date with that all those information. So these are thanks to our sponsors for this whole session of Meetup itself. We have a Decision Science, we have eClerks, we have Happy Marketeer, and especially thanks to you all, our audience who has been staying with us for the past 2 hours to listen in to all our great speakers, and thanks for all your attention and your questions. Thanks a lot, and good night.
Thank you.